Reddit. What was the best I could never do that again if I tried a million times moment? Story 1. Was playing football, soccer, in a park with about 6 or 7 friends when a family walked by and the eldest daughter, who must have been at least 20, shouted that, "If that ball comes near me, I will pop it." I considered this to be completely rude and uncalled for as we were just playing a nice game in the middle of the park. As the family walked by, I could see her walking like she was some awesome bitch for telling off a group of kids, so I thought to myself, I'll teach that bitch. So I took the ball in my hands and I kicked it towards her, assuming, because I'm not at all athletic or skilled at sports much, that it would go nowhere near her. But by some divine intervention, it conked her straight in the head from 50 yards away. The rest of the family laughed really hard at her, and she was too embarrassed to steal the ball and pop it, so her dad threw it back to us. I'm sure she's used to balls smacking her face. Story 2. 4 a.m. I'm hungry, so I go to Dunkin' Donuts. I grab whatever money I have in the car, which turns out to be $4.63. So I go and make my usual order, completely oblivious that I have no money. The register shows my total, $4.63. I just emptied my hand to the dude at the counter, and he knows what just happened and gives me a nod of approval. I drive away with my donuts and wraps like a boss. Story 3. I was playing kickball in my neighborhood street with a bunch of friends and a few cute girls around. I was always pretty good, so people always backed up when I was kicking. I got pitched the ball, and when I kicked it, it soared straight into the air, up the street and straight into my friend's basketball hoop. It was a good 35 yards away. The sound it made was the best swish I have ever heard. To this day, I have never made that shot again. Story 4. I believe I was 13 years old at the time, so this was approximately 10 years ago. I was fishing off the dock of my parents' beach house. I went to cast and release the fishing line into the air. A seagull was flying by at the exact time and the hook got attached to the bird. I caught a seagull with my fishing rod. I tried to reel the seagull in to remove the hook from its mouth, but the bird was having none of that. It was kind of flying like a kite until I decided to cut the fishing line. Story 5. In middle school, my friends and I were joking around, and I forgot about what exactly, but for some reason I had said something about hiding a body in the locker, and turned to the nearest locker, the kind with the combination lock built in, and playfully tried to open it up as part of the joke. I randomly twisted the locker and pulled the handle of the damn thing, and it just opened. And inside was a black garbage bag with something big inside. I was completely floored by my dumb luck. They thought I planned it. Wait, but was it a body, though? Story 6. Not me, but I was in a musical a few years ago, and one of the characters had to drop some coins. All goes well for the first few nights, and then one night he drops them, and one rolls down the stairs and halfway down the theater to the audience, whereupon it stops at the feet of a 3-ish-year-old girl, who at this point realizes that she is the chosen one and has magic powers and screams loudly and excitedly for quite some time. Yay. Story 7. At my ex-girlfriend's new loft apartment, 2 stories with the main living area, kitchen, etc. downstairs, and the bedroom upstairs with a half wall, I used to throw things off her upstairs wall at her cat. Socks, primarily. One day I had a nickel in my pocket, and I noticed an open, half-full Snapple bottle on the other side of my room, downstairs, about 15 feet away and 10 feet below me. I asked if she bet me I couldn't make it in. She humored me and said, "Sure, what's the bet?" I said if I missed, then I'll never throw anything downstairs again. And if I made it, she had to blow me and swallow. She hated it. Right then and there on the couch, I also hated doing anything on the couch, she accepted. I fully expected to miss, but I lined up, did a couple of fake pumps, and threw it. 2 seconds later, you heard the perfect clink and kersploosh. I ran around the apartment celebrating like I got the game-winning goal in overtime of Game 7 of the Stanley Cup, and she even paid up. Story 8. I ran out of gas while driving full speed once, and managed to coast over a mile and came to a stop sign right at a gas pump. I had a lot on my mind. I was even going through a divorce, and simply didn't think about filling the gas tank. I didn't even notice I was out of gas until I felt the acceleration no longer working. I turned down my music just in time to hear the engine sputter out, and I quickly popped my car into neutral, turned on the hazard lights, and began coasting for as long as I could. By the time I reached the gas station, I was going about 4 miles per hour and had just enough momentum to make it up the embankment and onto the pump. I didn't even brake until my gas cap was adjacent to the nozzle. Story 9. 2 things for me. First, I was driving on a highway after a very bad winter storm with lots of ice. My car started doing the wiggle. Next thing I know, I'm spinning, and I screamed out of reflex and saw the guy driving the car next to me with his shocked face. I landed perfectly straight and kept going. I'll never forget the dude's face and never forget the pair of pants I lost that day. Second, playing World Series baseball on the Sega Genesis, and I'm thinking 1994, 95, my cousin was kicking my ass. He had the bases loaded and was down by 1 point, 0 outs. It's a line drive and I made my shortstop dive for it, but instead of diving forward, he did this dive where his body was facing the wrong direction, so he sort of dove backwards towards the ball, and then proceeded to give me a triple play. I ended up winning. We watched the replay of my triple play for like 30 minutes. It was so unbelievable. Finally, my brother. We went to a house party and got hammered. We were playing quarters, the game where you bounce quarters off a table into a shot glass. I don't even remember the rules, I just remember doing that. Looking around at the table, there was a dude with a paper bag on his head and another dude with a lampshade on. Everyone was hammered. My brother said, "If I land this, you all have to chug hard liquor, and if I lose this, I'll do it," and proceeds to fill the glasses with hard liquor. He puts down 2 shot glasses and everyone is thinking there's no way he'll land 2. He then tilts his head back and puts the quarters over his eyes, slams his head forward, and lands both quarters in both shot glasses. The table erupts. Chairs are thrown backwards and broken. The eruption of screaming. I ended up blacking out due to the large amounts of Beefeater I drank that night. Story 10. I was acting in a play and whipped my head to the right to react to what another character said. This was something I did on every night in rehearsals, but for some reason on the opening night, my glasses shot right off my face and then just went flying. I have no idea how, but I immediately caught them with my already outstretched right hand. The audience ate it up. They applauded like it was a tricky maneuver I'd practiced every single night. But it was literally something I could never do again. 2 minutes later, I whipped my head to the left to react to another character, and the glasses went airborne again, smacking the actress in the face and falling behind a prop so that they could not be easily recovered. Story 11. I was in a hotel parking lot about to leave Vermont and head home for my friend's wedding. I was with a couple of my friends hopping into my car when I noticed my empty juice bottle from the write-up is on the floor of my car. I see a trash can all the way at the beginning of the parking lot. Back by the hotel, maybe 50 or 60 feet away. A couple of things. 1, this trash can had a lid on top, kinda like this. And 2, this bottle is completely empty, plastic, with a little bit of weight to it. Basically, I'm going to have to hurl it as hard as I can to get even close. I have no idea if I can even throw it far enough. So I say something along the lines of, "Check this out, motherfucker," and hurl the bottle in some majestic parabola shape toward the trash can. I must have hit an updraft or something because it made it all the way, hit the outer rim, spun a full time around the rim, and then dropped into the hole beautifully. The best throw of my life. Did I mention that there were 4 to 5 other carloads of people in the parking lot at that very moment? I proceeded to sprint around the parking lot, arms out like an airplane, high-fiving everyone else in the parking lot who was getting out of their cars. Story 12. Years ago, I was ice skating when I saw a group of my school friends. They were obviously there for the first time and kinda just shuffle sliding out to the center of the rink in our group of 4 without taking their feet off the ice. I was still new to this too and not very good, but I skated over to say hello. And I came up in front of him and I realized that I was going too fast and tried to slow down and overbalanced. I fell forward with my hands out. The heel of my hand landed on the ice and I did a perfect circle about 8 feet wide around it, with my skates opposed to each other before I managed to remove my hand and stand up again. "Show off," one of my friends grumbled. Story 13. This is random and stupid, but I was 9 and it blew my mind. During Hurricane Bob, I was on Cape Cod. My father and I walked closer to our dock to check out the boats people left in the water, about a 50-foot hill. The wind was whipping and the boats were breaking free and crashing down on the sort of river we were on like plinko balls. Our dock was pretty beaten up and one plank was missing from the walking surface. I picked up a pine cone and told my dad to watch me throw the pine cone through the hole in the deck. With zero preparation, I just tossed and watched that sail through the high winds and go straight into the section of the missing board. My dad doesn't swear, but he just yelled out, "F yeah," and then we watched all the dumbass boats obliterate each other and went home. Story 14. I was playing golf with my dad. Hit a terrible hook off the tee. The ball was sailing left of the fairway when all of a sudden the ball hits another ball mid-air. The person on the hole had also hooked his ball terribly and our shots collided mid-flight. This wasn't a chip shot or anything either. It was a drive. My ball had probably traveled 150 yards, and this was probably the pinnacle of the flight when my ball hit. His shot was an approach shot from maybe 200 yards from his green. When the ball hit, they shot back in our respective fairways, and they both landed about in the middle, resulting for me in a very short drive, but the dead center of the fairway. Similar results for him. From about 300 yards away, I see the guy throw his club down and his arms in the air, screaming, "Did you f***ing see that?" My dad and I were freaking out and laughing. We met the guy down the fairway and shook hands and had a good laugh. I specifically remember him saying, "We could try that 1,000,000 times and we would never be able to do that again." So when I saw this post title, it was instantly the story I remembered. Story 15. About 5 years back, I was playing poker with a bunch of my guy friends. They were all really into poker and got together every week or two to play. I knew the basic rules but didn't play often. One of my friends condescendingly questioned moves that I made, like, "Do you really want to do that? And it would probably be best if you folded, unless you have an X, Y, or Z in your hand." I didn't respond to him, kept a straight face, and won hand after hand. It had little to do with skill or strategy. I was just getting very lucky. My friend shut up pretty quickly, and I proceeded to win $50. I refuse to play poker with that group of friends again. I know I'll never live up to that epic victory, and in keeping with my natural poker skills, probably lose miserably. I also accidentally shot the moon the first time I played hearts a couple of months ago. My boyfriend, who had just taught me how to play, thought I was a cosmic genie card shark when I was playing it off like I knew what I was doing the whole time. I haven't played with him again since. Story 16. My friend had an iPhone 4 with a regular case on it and with an OtterBox snapped over that one. He was having people drop it off the apartment top floors over houses onto the road from speeding cars and it never broke. He thought that it was immortal, that an OtterBox brought iPhone invincibility. One night we're all drinking and he dares me to break his phone. Feeling like young Arthur pulling the Excalibur from the stone, I hold the smartphone vertically by the corner like a ninja star and put enough twang on the throw that it hurtled spinning 6 feet into the pavement like a Viking battle axe. In a glorious, shimmering explosion of electronic confetti, the first case and the OtterBox burst off the phone in damaged pieces. The touchscreen split into shattered glass, and the phone's circuitry drooled out of its opened innards like blood. I started clapping, and we all did. Never had to pay him for the phone. He'll never triple dog dare me to break anything ever again. Story 17. Back when I was 11 or 12, I was pretty big into playing Diablo 2, dial-up. I always used to play with a friend who lived 20 minutes away. It was summer, so we were pretty much always on. One day, I couldn't log on, and after 10 minutes decided to give up. I went to call him, so I picked up my phone, pushed the talk button, and held the phone to my ear waiting for the dial tone. Except I didn't hear a dial tone. After a second, I realized I heard breathing. It was the friend that I was trying to call. I somehow managed to pick up the phone before it even rang, and it was the very person I was going to call. Story 18. I played mini-golf with an ex-girlfriend and her family. I was still super self-conscious around them and was playing like shit and being all around awkward. Well, at the last hole, there's a chance to win a free game if you make a hole-in-one. Small pipe over a hill. Her boyfriend goes first and messed about, not even getting the ball over the hill, just sitting there midway. My ex and I are making eyes at each other, so she distractedly misses. I, being super awkward, decided to take it seriously and line up upright, using the hand positioning I learned from Tin Cup and Happy Gilmore, plus the breathing techniques from that one sniper movie. I swing, and I shank it wildly to the left and perfectly tap her brother's ball, knock it into the pipe, and setting off the bells and whistles. No one saw it but I, and they all assumed that I was a mini-golf pro from that moment on. I gave the free game to her brother, as we were all visiting him at school. Story 19. I was in my kitchen holding a plate with my buttered toast in one hand and a jar of sugar by a little knob on the lid in the other. Mind you, this was a jar about the size of a head and a half, about 20 pounds. I was holding it in such a manner that because the lid was supposed to be a suction type, and that's how I always grabbed it. I was taking it to the table in my kitchen from its spot in the cabinet when the lid popped off. Before the jar hit the lava, aka floor, I dropped the plate, caught the jar midair with that arm, and looked down. To my amazement, the plate had landed perfectly on the floor with the buttered toast unharmed in the center of the plate, with the exact amount of sugar I wanted. When I dropped the jar and caught it, some sugar spilled out, but only on the plate. Story 20. This is buried but too good not to share. I went camping with a bunch of bros just after high school. Like 10 to 12 guys over the course of the trip, some staying only a few days. 5 of us there for the whole thing. We all used to go camping and get sideways like every weekend for a couple of years. This was the bender of all benders. A week of debauchery. Generally, it goes like this. Get up and make breakfast. Drinking starts when the fire is lit. Horseshoes and lawn darts, with occasional BB gun tournaments. Drink until the sun goes down. Dinner, more drinking until everyone passes out. No idea how my liver still works. Repeat. There was this scrub jay that would not let up. Just incessant squawking from sun up to sun down. It apparently lives in a tree that is 20 yards from our site, between us and a big open field that we played horseshoes and shoot. Day 2. Breakfast is on and I'm drinking camp coffee. Cafe Vienna instant with peppermint schnapps in it. For whatever reason, I feel like I'm about to get f***ed up. I turn around and catch a golf ball-sized rock that was headed right for my head. What the frick? One of the guys had thrown it at that bird up in the tree from the field area, and it came right at me. We all laugh. A week goes by, like day 6, and we were a bit too hammered that night and were plinking at a frisbee someone stuck in the tree earlier that week. Again, trying to hit that bird. The morning of day 7, I was way hungover, drinking more camp coffee. It's now mostly schnapps with a scoop of coffee in it. And a couple of guys were making breakfast. All I could hear was that damn bird. So I'm sitting there with my head in my hands and I see a CO2 BB gun that was left on the ground from last night. I grabbed it, pointed it behind me in the general direction of the bird, and shot one time while yelling, "Shut the f*** up!" I turned around to see the scrub jay fell out of the tree dead. I hit it. My hungover brain was still trying to process what just happened when I hear, "There's no way that just happened." One of the guys had seen it. Holy shit, I just did that. So I walk over to the bird, and not only had I hit it, I shot it in the mouth and blew the back of its head off. 1,000,000 to 1 shot, 20 yards away, about 30 feet up a tree, not even looking. I felt terrible. I hadn't meant to kill it, that was a freak occurrence. Never in a million years had I thought I'd hit it. It'd be one thing if I had intended to kill it, but that was such an unfair way for it to die after avoiding death all week long. We buried it and had a little bird funeral to honor its unwavering tenacity at annoying the out of us. This was in like 1995, and to this day when we all go camping, we start the drinking with a toast of "To Bird Bro." Story 21. Many years ago was mountain biking around the San Angelo State Park, that would be in Texas, and I'm out on a particular stretch of trail that I had already been on earlier in the day, but I had to come back out with my friend who had just gotten off work. We were going at a decent clip, him following since it was his first time going through the stretch. So I'm cruising along and I catch the glimpse of something moving in a bush nearby with my peripheral vision. Then all of a sudden this thing darts in front of me in the trail. Except not all the way in front of me, actually right behind my front tire and in front of my rear tire. So I have to maintain my balance while literally riding over whatever this thing is, like a tall speed bump that is moving perpendicularly to the direction of travel. It's at this moment that I am directly on top of it and looking down, trying to maintain my control, that I finally see what it is. It's a freaking armadillo. I ran over an armadillo on my bike. We were both fine, and he continued on his way across the trail and into the bush, never to be seen again. My friend almost wrecked from laughing after witnessing the whole thing go down. Story 22. Was walking in Universal Studios with my son when we passed over one of those carnival-style basketball games where you can win large stuffed animals. My son is 8 and sees a life-size Pokemon. He says, "Daddy, can you win me that?" I'm like, "Sure, son, I got this." Now keep in mind that this is one of those hoops that is barely bigger than the ball. 10 feet up and what seemed like 30 feet away. I stepped up, turns my hat backwards, get a smart-ass comment from the guy working at the stand, and shoot. First shot, nothing but net. Feeling pretty good about myself. Have to make 2 to get the stuffed animal. Second shot, nailed it. I'm pretty cocky at this point, so I asked the guy, "What happens if I make all 3? He tells me I get to pick a big one and a small one if I hit the third. The third shot, 1 bounce on the rim and then it falls in. Walking away from that stand with my son wearing the biggest, proudest smile I have ever seen while he's struggling to hold these two stuffed animals. The best feeling in the world.